Welcome back, St. Lucia, to Newsmaker Live. It's Wednesday. It's Newsmaker Live, where we make your stories, our stories. Now, I just wanted to share a bit of statistic with you. And I don't have current statistics, as in 2015, because a lot of the times, these statistics are retroactive, right? So we will only get it afterwards. But I was able to rustle up some statistics out of 2012, and it was appalling. In 2012, St. Lucia reported 379 cases of child abuse. 379 cases of child abuse. And those are only the cases that were abused, that were reported, sorry. We have no idea the full impact of child abuse in this country. We don't know the number of cases that are unreported. It could be twice as many cases. We don't know the number of cases that are continuing as we speak. We do not know the number of children who are being abused at this very moment. While on break, I got a message from someone who said, police officer who was assigned a case of a child who is just beaten because they're acting out. How do we know that this child is not acting out because of some issue? Maybe they've been sexually abused, maybe something. Do we have the resources? And I know oftentimes you will hear me bash the government and say, you know what, so much more can be done. But in this case, here is a situation where citizens are taking matters into their own hands and have created a foundation that will take some of the burden off of government. All they're asking for, if it is possible, and we know that there are a number of factory shells that are available, because you have looked at a few of them, we're asking that perhaps that government can give them a break in procuring one of those factory shells to outfit. And we know that there are some of them that are outfitted and just sitting there unattended to. Give them an opportunity to be able to reach the full maximum potential, to be able to offer the services that they already have identified. Persons are willing to contribute their time, their services, their skills, and their talents. All they need is a place to call home, a secretariat out of which they can operate out of. And there are a number of agencies that have already contacted them, individuals as well as agencies that want to help. But they cannot help them if they're operating out of a personal home. They want to operate transparently. They want to be able to give a good account of the resources entrusted in their care. And so they need a secretariat. The lines are open right now, St. Lucia. Now is your turn, now is your time to call in and join in the conversation. What are some of the... We have our first call. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Good evening, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
You look super beautiful tonight, if I can say so myself.
Oh, thank you.
Let me just say how proud I am of your guest.
Just hold a minute, Just hold a minute. My guests are not hearing, so I'm going to have to translate. So, Junior, you need to help me with our sound. We do not want to be accused of, anything there. If you could just hold a minute, before you can go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
You can hear me now?
They're working on it, but just go ahead. I'll be able to translate. Okay, yes, sound is coming through.
I was just saying how proud I am of them, being that youthful and energetic, and I just wish a lot more kids can emulate what they do, and St. Lucia can emulate what they do, so we can actually help the system. The government on its own cannot do it. Organizations on their own cannot do it. I must say, from my vantage point, I want to just, shout out and say, let us collaborate. A lot of our groups need to come together. Government gives a lot of NGOs money to function, and they all try to do the same thing in different directions, not collaborating. But we can do a lot for our country if we all come together sometimes, initiate a roundtable discussion, find out how the various groups can come together to accomplish a common goal. So I just want to end and say, job well done. Thank you. Let's keep collaborating. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call.
And he made a valid point. A lot of the times, there are I know at least one NGO that gets a government subvention. I have my own opinions on their ability to execute their mandate, but the ability to collaborate with other agencies. We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to be
Good
directly
evening.
opposite to your last caller.
Okay.
And I understand with what he's saying. I can understand with the whole situation. But it just comes to a point that we as the citizenry should demand a change. We should demand a change in thinking. We need to demand a change from every person who is in authority. Okay? I am sick and tired of saying the government is not responsible or we should take on the mantle, because we should, that is true, and this, that. At the end of the day, we every 5 years take our time, take our placards or whatever, and we go to vote for politicians. We go to church every Sunday, you know. We do certain things all the time. But especially when it comes to voting, we vote every 5 years. And we put in individuals who we feel could do the best, generally for our economy, for human services, for health, for everything. And a lot of the times they let us down. Okay? I am tired of hearing that politicians are not responsible, because I believe politicians, their main objective, the main reason why you put a politician in power, you put a government official in power, you put a minister in power, is to set laws. And we are in a country that do not have laws. We do not respect laws. The police are disenfranchised. They do not want to do anything because they feel the legal system is a waste of time. And it is just a whole process, a whole circle of problems. You understand? I applaud the young lady and her organization and the gentleman and the organization.
Thank you.
But it is just going to be one of these stack organizations which are there and are finding it very difficult to operate in this country, in this climate. Because the government, the regulators are not doing their jobs.
Thank you so much
Simple.
for your contribution.
Basic, simple. And I heard the I think human services, the lady responsible for human services,
Hello?
sad every time that happens. I mean, we're tired of this nonsense. Something must be done. If laws are to be enacted, enact the laws. But stop coming and cry on people's television and making it look like a whole sad festival every time something happens, somebody's shot, or some child dies, or something happens. I mean, it is time that we as St. Lucian demand that we are tired of this crap. Because we put these politicians in power to enact legislations. We have police officers that we pay. We pay the politicians. We pay everybody with our tax money, with VAT, with all these things. We pay them, and they are not doing their job. So we need government officials to get serious, to enact the laws, and that for police and for the judges to get involved. Make sure that these people who do these kind of things to these children pay for it, and that they make an example of them, and that they die bodily. Because at the end of the day, this young child is dead. He has no future. That's it. That's it for him. And he was killed. He was murdered. Like you said, it took 2 days to even recognize he had so many marks. You understand?
Yes.
It is sad. As a country, it is sad. And when these things come out in the public and ministers come on television and say, oh, they should not put it on news, this is rubbish, because it is affecting us, the people, the citizenry, and they, the politicians, are to be blamed because they are not doing their jobs.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And this
Thank you.
seems like a very impassioned caller.
Yes,
You want to address
Let me just make a point. I do agree with what the caller has said to a certain extent, and my extent is, I think government, it is incumbent upon them to try to close the cracks in society at the macro level through policy, legislative changes. I think that is needed, and we do have to keep the pressure on whichever administration that is in power to ensure that these things are being done. But at the same time, I think what the caller has to recognize is that we have to be part of the change. And in the absence of, if he says the government is not responding in an efficient manner, what happens? Do we stand by and throw our hands up into the air? I think there are things that we could do, and we just need to ask ourselves, how can we contribute? Is there...
Just hold that thought. We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm just calling because I find it really ridiculous that that the child had so many marks on his skin, and then you're telling me that he fell, okay? He fell for one day and he had so many bruises on his skin. I mean, like, how stupid is this? And then you would need more evidence. You will need other people to come and tell you that he was abused. I mean, common sense will only tell you that the child was abused.
But you see, sometimes we have to look at what the law provides for, and I think that's what the previous caller alluded to in terms of ensuring that our laws have bite, that they have teeth, you know. But I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, this is so ridiculous. I mean, yes, he goes to school, right? I mean, you notice so many marks on the child's skin that you can't go to the school and ask questions. So that in a case like this, that you say, okay, well, I went to the school and then a teacher said that this and this happened at whatever date. I mean, she's not building a story. You understand where I'm coming from? I mean, this is just stupid. I mean, this lady should have been arrested, because if it was my child, honestly, I would catch her on fire.
Well, we're not promoting, but I understand your we're not promoting violence, but we understand your frustration, and I've number of people I've spoken with about this case, they're just as flummoxed and flabbergasted as you are. But thank you so much for your contribution, and we really do appreciate it. And we need more people, citizens, to stand out and to speak out against, to denounce that kind of behavior. Thank you so much for calling. But you see, in this case, as the caller alluded, I think a number of agencies failed this child. I mean, the mother says she had reported it, but the schools, I mean, you have a child coming to school every day with these bruises. He has to be in pain. Did they not report? I mean, it would be interesting to see the outcome of this investigation. Did the teachers, did they contribute to the abuse or lack thereof? I mean, did they when I say they contributed to it, did they report that this child is coming to school all bruised up every day? You know, and if they did not, why not? You had to have held this child. He's 4 years old. He's not even in kindergarten. He's in preschool. You had to have hold him. Students, other children would have played with him, and he would have said, ouch, this hurts. You know, how much did we let this child down? We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. We lost this call. So sorry, sir, or whomever. Please try to call back again. But again, how many agencies let this child down?
Well, what I could say on this matter is that I'm not privy to the facts of the situation. I've heard different opinions been expressed on the particular case. But what I could say to you is that I think that they should have never occurred, and the relevant agencies, institutions should have responded. And I think an investigation must be thorough to ensure that the family gets justice in that particular situation. Because if it doesn't happen, then you would have a repetition of such incidents taking place again.
And I mean, and the thing about it is, all of a sudden, now that the child is dead, we were hearing reports of the child was bitten, like as in past tense of bite, right? The child was bitten, and that the child was slammed against walls. And I'm saying, okay, so somebody must have seen, if you can report these things, if you can now make those statements, somebody must have seen and witnessed these things. Why did you not report then? Why are you saying it now? And why aren't you saying it to the relevant persons, the people who can help investigate and ensure that a case is brought against the parents? We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Honestly?
Hello?
Honestly, you're listening to me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
But I'm telling you guys right now, that's why I love this city. To me, that thing is driving too much, man. To me, there was the murder of the father, the step murder. Honestly, that case should have been done already.
The case should have been done already.
But of course, the child is dead. You guys tell me that's been right now. I'm telling you, you're calling. That's frustrating.
I don't understand what your point, the point that you're trying to make. The child is dead and the case should be done already. You mean it should have been investigated and prosecuted already?
No, of course.
I mean, what a 4-year-old could do so much? I mean, being a 4-year-old so bad, and he's dead.
Very well.
I mean, that's the question everybody's asking, and you're quite right. I think that the case that should have been priority. This is our future we're talking about. Every time a young child dies, that is a bit of our future that dies.
I mean, we feel just like, I mean, you can work for government to do 7 every time. I mean, I'm giving take money to 4-year-old. But that's what I'm always saying. That case should have been done already. The murder, the father, the stepmother, they'll be jailed on 34 years. Not even leave the jail. Them children should be there for lifetime. That's all.
Thank you so much for calling and making a contribution. But I totally. Yes, sir.
I want to say thanks. Kendall Elvaga. Honestly, I'll meet with you. I'll see you every day. Honestly, I'm from the south, so
you'll reach out to him.
Okay, thank
Wonderful,
you very
thank
much,
you.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind contribution.
Yes.
Thank you.
And he's right. I mean, I didn't all follow at first what he was saying, but you know, it's a case of a child, a vulnerable child, defenseless, as you said earlier, dependent on adults. Yes.
Parent for protection. But one of the things which is interesting, now again, I'm not privy to the facts of the situation, but one thing I know is that in many instances of physical abuse, there are signs to look out for in terms of bruises, in terms of injuries taking a long time to get healed, and sometimes the child may wear clothing to cover bruises. And that's why I was saying it is also incumbent upon everyone. You know, it's not just the school system or human services, because at least at the minimalistic level, what you could do is to make a report. You see a child has a bruise in an area and the child cannot seem to provide an explanation for it, or not even the parent of the child can provide an explanation. I'm not necessarily speaking towards this particular situation with Milan, but I think that these are things that happen, and sometimes we turn a blind eye to it and we say it's not none of our business.
Not in my backyard.
But if we don't, then who now will stand up for that particular child? So that's why I was saying that all of us, there's something that we could do, no matter how small it is.
Right.
Very well.
We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You on the air?
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Good evening, caller.
Okay, so you need to turn down the volume.
About the little boy.
Caller, you need to turn down the volume of your television because we can get the feedback.
Okay. I feel really bad about what happened to the child. I mean, this is not supposed to happen. A child cannot just fall on and get scars and scratches. The child has to be abused. And St. Lucian doesn't really take that seriously. They take very long just to solve this case. Well, this is what I think.
Okay, thank you so much for making your contribution. She's right. I mean,
thank you.
We're hearing that the stepmother said that the child fell. Well, you cannot fall, and even if you fell down a flight of 100 stairs and rolled down each one of them, the number of bruises. I mean, to have to postpone the post-mortem because so many bruises. Now, I'm hoping, and I'm just thinking as a layperson, I am by no means a medical expert. I am hoping that whomever is doing the post-mortem can tell from the bruises what is fresh and what has been healed, the length of time that this abuse has been going on. We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, caller.
Okay, my take on this is we all are blaming the mother. What I'm saying, what kind of 4-year-old do so much that would give the stepmother so much rage to kill that child? And nothing is being done about it. I'm not sure if she's already been charged.
I think this caller, this is really emotional for this particular caller, and I don't think tonight we have really blamed the mother, but I can only imagine on the outside that there may be people who are blaming the mom, like, why did you not keep your child, and why did the courts have to take your child away from you? And sometimes you have to understand that when the courts are looking at a case, they're looking at the circumstance at the time, and maybe at the moment the mother was unable, and so they thought to give it to the next best person, which is the father and the stepmother. We have another call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You on the air?
Yeah, good evening. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Good evening.
Yeah, I just feel the stepmother should never beat up the child like that, because the child is a young child. If the child do something you don't like it, tell the father. But to Michelle, your wife beating the child, what a 4-year-old can do? A 4-year-old cannot do nothing. Sometimes when we were small, we was more troublesome than that child. And I'm feeling sorry for the mother, because what she's going through, nobody don't know. Because I watch on the television, I say to my children, I think she'll go off, because the time you seen her rubbing her forehead, I feel so bad, because that child, what they have to do, arrest the father, arrest the mother, put one in grocery, one in Sufra, and let them talk, because both of them involved in it.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And before we took this call, there's one of something I wanted to point out, and the caller underscored it. We do not yet know that the stepmother is the one. It is alleged that the stepmother bit the child. It is alleged that the father contributed. It is all alleged. These are all accusations. These are all things that are supposed until facts can be brought into evidence. And this is why I think a lot of people are calling for this case to be investigated forthwith and to be brought to bear, and that whomever the perpetrators are of this case, that they're brought to justice. So again, I'm appealing to the viewers. We do not yet know that it is the stepmother or the father. We just know that this child suffered injuries and that the child eventually succumbed to the injuries. We have another call, Junior?
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live.
Good evening.
My suggestion is that when a child has been taken from her parents, they should have, the authorities should follow up on that to see, check on that child now and then, so they would see if there is any kind of abuse or something.
I quite agree. Thank you for your contribution. But I know, and Melissa and Kendall, correct me if I'm wrong, I do know that they try, but resources are so few, and which is why, which is why I think that CHF is coming at the opportune time. Yes, because you're going to be there. You know the ropes.
Right.
You're able to go through and to be there and to ensure that these parents and these affected children get justice. We have our last call online. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live with Laura. You go on the air.
Good night, Laura. Good night to your guests.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
I think such situation, Laura, and your guests just strengthen my point I have been speaking about for years. That I think single fathers and single mothers have to be very careful who they introduce to the life of the kids. I think when I heard of that story, because this is not the only story that single parents face in St. Lucia. I think this is a story that has been way back then. You understand? But I think single parents, not me, because I have no kids. But I'm saying single parents have to be very, very, very extremely careful. Select the persons that they select as the partner to enter the life of the kids. And I think that story, that situation, should open the eyes of every single parent in St. Lucia. So I just want to take time to single out, because I have been speaking about that for years in meetings and every single meeting that I have attended, because I am somebody, I have a passion for youth development, and I speak at every function that I attend. Single parents, be careful who you get attracted to and bring to the lives of your kids. Thank you, Laura. I'll listen off here. Wonderful program.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And he's so right. A lot of the times we don't think, and I know of single parents who tell you, no, I'm dating, but nobody that I'm dating gets introduced to my children unless and until I am certain that this is the one, whether it's a man introduced to in particular where girl children, I know people who are like that, who are particular like that, and even men, to the point where they baby mama will say, you know, you need to get a life and not dictate to me who I bring into my life. But it's very important because whomever you bring into your life, you bring to your children's lives. And so as a conscientious father, a father who cares, he will be naturally concerned who you bring into his life, into the children's lives. And likewise, the mothers should be concerned who the fathers bring into their children's lives.
Very well.
Yes. So time has flown by. Final thoughts.
Well, what I want to say is that firstly, we would like to extend condolences to the family of Milan, and I hope that they gain strength and comfort from the Almighty Father, and we as St. Lucians, we would support them in this difficult period. Further to that, I would like to say that Caring Hands Foundation is there to make a contribution to the welfare of children who are vulnerable, children who are oppressed, children who are marginalized. The reality is that whereas you have children who are doing pretty well in terms of their development, there are those who are abused, there are those who are exploited, there are those who are being neglected. And the consequences of such is only dire. It cannot augur well for us as a country, for us as individual communities. And I think whereas the government of St. Lucia is of duty to act, and I need to say that there are instances where, now I'm not speaking necessarily to that particular situation with Milan, but I know there are situations where children are placed in foster care, or the courts have taken children from the care of one parent. And that happens because if you make reference to Article 3 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, it indicates that every step ought to be taken in the interest of that particular child. So the courts would have done the necessary investigation to determine what is the best course of action at the time. And there are children, once they have been placed in the care, whether it is a foster parent or another parent, what happens is that they do have a decent state of welfare, they develop properly. So these sort of things happen, and it's just an unfortunate situation which should have never occurred with young Milan. The other thing I want to say is that we, as Caring Hands Foundation, we will be calling on St. Lucians to assist us in any way that they can, because the task is indeed mammoth, and we believe with more hands on deck, that makes for lighter work.
Wonderful. Now quickly, Mel, I know that you have some events and stuff organized throughout the rest of the year to help with the work of the Caring Hands Foundation. Can you give us a quick run through?
Right. At present, we're having a raffle which will be held in November, on the 22nd of November, and we're raffling a tablet and jewelry from Colombian Emeralds, and we're asking persons, when we approach y'all, that you would assist us by taking a chance or chances for your household. And also in December, we have a gala night. The venue is yet to be confirmed, and we're asking St. Lucians to please support us at our gala event coming up on the 13th of December 2015. So look out for the dates, mark the dates, look out for our ads, and we will let you know some more, and you'll find that information on our website as well. Thank you, St. Lucia.
And I'm telling you, St. Lucia, this is very crucial for them, because all of the events that they're putting on is to raise funds to be able to acquire to maintain that secretariat that they spoke about so much tonight, and it's very, very critical. I think you got quite a number of suggestions, especially the one about the collaboration. We didn't get a chance to delve into that too much, but I'm certain that you will be able to go, discuss further and reach out to other organizations to lend impetus to what you're doing.
Very well.
This has been yet another emotional, anguished episode of Newsmaker Live. Before we go out, there's just a few young people that I want to say hello to, and they are Jamina St. Mary from the Entrepot Secondary School, my little hairdresser. Hello, Jamina. Daniel Phillip, my guest from last week. Devon Gabriel, my special friend who facilitated my guest from last week. and of course, near and dear to me, the Library Junior Choir. This has been another episode of Newsmaker Live with Laura. See you next week. Oh, one more thing. I may not be here next week, but I'm certain that we will have another riveting show, all planned out. But just unfortunate, I will not be in the driver's seat. See you next time.